Sounds good, man.
All right, we're back. A second interview with Dr. Nathan Jenkins. Welcome, Nathan.
Hey, Jason. Thanks, man.
Or Doc, what do you prefer?
Freaking call me by my first name.
What?
Nathan.
I have found that PhDs oftentimes are almost like embarrassed to use the word doctor, but you're a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us are. I find a direct correlation with that, actually.
With what?
The ones who want to be called doctor have tend to have a little bit of insecurity, kind of a complex.
Are they the same people that would shave reps at a CrossFit class?
Yes.
So
yeah. So it's like unless I'm in my actual professional setting where I have undergraduate students who want to address me, those kids, I just let them figure it out. They can call me Nathan. They can call me Dr. Jenkins. Most of them call me Dr. J. But I just leave it alone. Otherwise, freaking please use my first name. Right.
Well, I always like to give the respect. I like to give the respect. I have a master's, and I know how hard that was to achieve. Yeah. So I can only imagine how much harder it was to get your PhD. So I'll refer to you as Doc going forward. But so
that's fine.
So, Doc, you're at the University of Georgia. You've been on this. I mean, I truthfully don't know what's a more prestigious, credential. The fact that you have your PhD, or this is your second appearance on Best Hour of Their Day.
Well, the PhD, I got that a long time ago. This is new and fresh for me, and I think you guys are doing some great work. So I'm actually sincerely honored to be back on the podcast. This is really cool for me. So
well, we appreciate it. Anybody can get a PhD. Not anybody can come on Best Hour of Their Day, let alone twice. And we certainly want to have you on more than that, because you've kind of become the spokesperson for us with CrossFit Health. Mm-hmm. Fern interviewed you already. Then we got to see you at the summit. And let me tell you, the CrossFit training staff is a very hard staff to win over. And they loved you. They absolutely loved you. And that's very unique. I was at a summit, man, it must have been 6 or 7 years ago. And don't worry, these lights are motion detector. They just went out where I am. I got to sit here in the dark. It's all good. But they tore the guest speaker apart. I was really feeling sorry for this guy. And I mean, you won over the crowd. And it helps because you're a CrossFitter. And I think that's important for everyone to realize. You're doing this research. You're trying to really grow CrossFit Health. You're pushing us in the right direction. But it really stems from your devotion and dedication and love, just like all of us, all the listeners, to the CrossFit methodology.
Yeah, the best hour of my day every day is when I get to go work out. So
where are you doing that right now?
The affiliate I work out at is called CrossFit Oconee. It's in Watkinsville, Georgia. I live in Athens, Georgia, but it's the next town over. Watkinsville, it actually turns out to be closest to my house. Yeah, I work out every day at either 4:30 or 5:30 in the afternoon.
Have you gained a little bit of notoriety there? Are they oh, that's the guy or is it kind of over the heads of most of the box members?
Good question. A little bit. But I also, I mean, it's a great community. It's the people there that really keep me going back, and keep us staying there. It's an awesome community. And they, for the most part, I feel for me, I'm just a regular person at the gym, everyday athlete. And we're all kind of hardworking professionals, and we all come there to de-stress. And once in a while, cause I've been to HQ a couple times and gave a talk there, and I'll post some stuff in our private, members Facebook group when I'm doing stuff like that, and people kind of get excited. It's whoa, what is Nathan doing? And they know that I'm a professor and I do CrossFit oriented research, but for the most part, people, it's all just regular people, right? And I'm just one of them, and my wife is too. And yeah, so a little bit to answer your question, but for the most part, not really. And they also know that I go there to de-stress, so I don't get a lot of, we have a guy who's a divorce lawyer, at our gym. And he also has made it pretty clear to the members there. It's like, please don't ask me questions about like stuff when I'm here in the box, because this is where I come to de-stress. And it's like the same thing with my work is way less stressful than that, but
Hey,
same kind of thing. So
if I were to become a divorce lawyer, I would hang out in a CrossFit box. So that's probably the best place to get new clients. I've seen plenty of marriages fall apart in the CrossFit box.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
So for those that maybe haven't heard of you before or didn't listen to the previous episode where Fern and you had a deep dive discussion, what would you say is your elevator pitch to what you're doing for CrossFit right now?
Well, what I'm doing for CrossFit is, so I'm a consultant for really the training department is who my current contract is with Nicole. And what I'm doing is designing a course on exercise physiology that'll be offered online. And it's going to be 10 modules, basically 10 different lectures on different topics related to exercise physiology. So like the metabolic energy systems and hormonal responses to exercise, exercise in men versus women, exercise in kids, exercise in aging. These are all some just examples of the different modules. And they're similar to the lectures that I give in my exercise physiology class at the university, but tailored specifically for the CrossFit methodology and tailored to the target audience of CrossFitters and people who are maybe looking for like continuing education in their advancing their coaching credentials and so forth. And within the CrossFit training sort of space and CrossFit training department. So that's been my main contracted work for CrossFit. And I've also been not contractually, but just I guess kind of casually affiliate working with and spent some time with the folks over in the CrossFit health department like Karin, and have gone to a couple of the meetings that what they call the DDC or Derelict Doctors Club meetings at HQ a couple of times now, and I got the opportunity to present at one of those as well. So so since my work is in the area of CrossFit exercise and cardiometabolic disease in general, that's been a natural connection as well. So like talking with all the physicians and the different people involved with the CrossFit health movement. So
obviously you were already in the midst of your journey to become a PhD in your exercise physiology degree before finding CrossFit. Mm-hmm. But at what point in your CrossFit journey did you say, hey, this shit is really good and I should be focusing on this versus whatever you were working on in the past?
Yeah. Well, my background with that is that I actually got I know I look young, and I don't think your listeners are seeing my face. But
we'll put a nice pic. We'll find the best picture of you out there.
I've had my PhD for coming up on a decade now, and I've been a professor for 7 years. And so for most of my research background and my research career, it has been not CrossFit related at all, but it's been in this general area of exercises, prevention, and treatment of cardiometabolic disease. And it was actually through students that I was teaching in an exercise physiology class that I even got exposed to the whole idea of CrossFit and looking at the science of it. Because we were talking about it was like 2014 or so, not that long ago, that I was teaching this class. And after a discussion on trends and fads in fitness in class, a couple of students who actually, one of whom had her level 1, came up to me after class and was like, so what do you think about CrossFit? And being a mainstream exercise scientist, I had only just heard of it. I had not actually taken the time to look into it that much. Of course, by 2014, most people had heard of CrossFit. I said, that's the thing where they climb the ropes and flip the tires and get injured and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
So, but then, that prompted me. It's like, okay, students are interested in this. Let me see if I can incorporate it in my classroom. And I looked into it, and it was interesting enough to me that I said, okay, I need to explore this, try it out, and cut to the chase. Because for the listeners who did hear this story on the conversation I had with Fern, basically I decided to try CrossFit for 1 year, and it I haven't really looked back. That was 2015. And it was towards the end of that, or really actually it's been kind of a gradual, a snowball effect kind of thing, where I have progressively incorporated more and more of CrossFit ideas and methodologies and doctrines and so forth into my work, and both my teaching and my research. So my job is 50-50 teaching and research. And we're just starting to really gather steam on that. So, yeah, so that it was really after that, in that process, and that, to answer your question, 2015, 2016 is when I've really started incorporating more of the CrossFit ideas into my work.
What's one thing you learned during your PhD program that you no longer believe is true since you've started CrossFitting?
There's a bunch of things. And you might recall I had a whole slide on this at the summit where I got to present.
Yeah.
I used to believe, for example, I wish I had that in front of me. Oh, it's on this damn computer. I can pull it up, but
don't touch your computer. We had enough technical difficulty.
Yeah, I should go for yeah, we did have that before we started. No, my one thing that I used to believe was true that I don't think is true anymore because of CrossFit is, and by the way, this will be something that is actually, you could find papers to support this in the scientific literature, but I don't actually think it's correct, is that if all you do is meet the physical activity guidelines from the US federal government, which is 30 to 60 minutes a day of moderate to vigorous physical activity, so 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity per week, then you're doing enough to get by. I don't actually think that that is a scientifically defensible, accurate statement.
How would you rephrase it?
I would rephrase it by saying that the whole idea of so what I articulated there is an approximation of our guidelines for physical activity for health and to prevent a premature demise. But I don't think it's enough to get by. I think instead, I would just rephrase it completely away from the whole idea of volume, which is what that prescription is how much physical activity should you be doing to check the box. And instead, I would rephrase it by saying we should be pursuing an improvement in our work capacity and our ability to do whatever it is, like to do X. And we could fill that blank in with a lot of different things, whether it's a strength type activity, which is where I would start from the general public health standpoint, because that's what lands most people are like in the nursing home, or a cardiovascular sort of domain, cardiorespiratory endurance sort of domain, which is what so many of us are limited in, and so forth. But basically the big picture is, without diving too much into the minutia of it, is have a goal, like a physical performance, a fitness oriented goal, instead of checking the box, like, did I do this amount of activity today, or did I not do it, etc.
Sounds like the new answer has to be basically fitness in 100 words.
I think that's a better guide.
That'd be great.
You go ahead.
I'd say that'd be a great guideline. Imagine if the world all of a sudden said, okay, instead of just, hey, we're going to move for 30 minutes, whatever that represents, we're actually going to eat meats and vegetables, nuts, seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. We're going to keep intake levels, etc. You know, we're going to clean, we're going to jerk, we're going to practice the basic lifts.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. And you know what, man? I think the experiment in that has been ongoing, and I think we've got the data. I think it works. And I mentioned to you guys at the summit, like, you on the seminar staff, I regard you as industry scientists. I'm an academic scientist. I work in the university in the ivory tower. You're an industry scientist where you're testing out an idea, a methodology where your laboratory is the marketplace. And in the laboratory of the marketplace, if something's not successful, it's not going to work, and it's not going to be a viable business strategy. And what is CrossFit if not the fastest growing, exponential rate of growth, the curve for the explosion of CrossFit over the last 10, 15, 20 years, we haven't seen anything like that ever. And the core of that is fitness in 100 words. And the results are just profound. We don't have I would love to see more numbers associated with this, but we don't really need it. The physiological adaptation is something that in the academic space, we wish we had that. The profound effects on body composition and cardiometabolic health, we don't have that with what we've come up with as far as the optimal approach. Whereas the fitness in 100 words and pursuing an improvement of work capacity across broad time and mobile domains, I mean, CrossFit's done that in a different type of experimental model, which is industry.
Well, I want to get a little conceptual with you. For the listeners, prior to this, I kind of asked the doc. I was like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about? What can we do?" And you really said, "Hey, I want to do whatever it takes to help box owners, to help the community, to help the industry, right?" And that's what's awesome. But having recently driven from Florida to Colorado, and I travel the world delivering these seminars, you see the problem. It's evident. You drive through Kansas, you see the problem. You drive through Kentucky, and we didn't veer off of 70. So we were eating at the fast food places. Every X amount of miles, there's a sign on the side of the road that has those 6 local fast food restaurants, and we'd go in there and there's obese people.
Yeah.
So my conceptual question to you is, you're an exercise physiologist. I'm a CrossFitter and a CrossFit coach. What's it going to take to make a change in this country? I'm not even talking about the world. What can we do? I mean, so my buddy of mine, Kyle, who, full disclosure, you remind me exactly of when you were talking at the summit. I was like, that's my buddy Kyle up on the stage. And it was really like, I still, as we're talking, sometimes I forget that you're not him, but he's about to be a nurse. He's a smart, great looking guy. And so we talked a lot about it on the way, because he's just starting his nursing career. He just took his test. He's moving forward. And we stopped at one stop, and we had been talking a lot about diabetes. And there was a guy who was overweight, and his ankles, this no joke, and it almost like makes me like tear up because I'm sad. His ankles had like purple bands around them. And when I say purple bands, I'm not talking like he was wearing something. I'm saying his skin was discolored to the point that it was purple. He had like the fluid around his legs. Yeah. And I'm like, in your mind, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? And I'm a little harsh. I'm a very cold turkey, tell me what to do kind of guy. I don't, so it's easy to me. Hey, you have a problem, do X. This guy knows he has a problem. His ankles are purple. What's it going to take? Doc, give me the answer. You said, what can I do to help this community? Give us the answer, because that's what's going to help CrossFit affiliates grow. How do we get those people to understand, hey, CrossFit's not dangerous. You have to eat this way. You have to do these things. We have a great community. It's going to change your life. You're going to get divorced. We got a divorce lawyer for you. We're all set up. You're good to go. How do we get them? How do we explain that to people?
Oh, man. Well, usually I'm the one asking these questions to my students, like the impossible.
Right. So let's flip it.
Questions. Yeah. So it's flipped right now. They'll love that. That I got asked. I got stumped.
Well, and I understand there's no answer.
No.
But at some point it's like, and for all the people that are hating on Coach Glassman, it's like, that's what he's trying to do.
Well, that's what he's trying to do. And actually, I've heard him speak to this, is that he, and I share his view on this, is that I don't have a lot of hope for the public health. I'm not sure that, I think it would be naive of us to think like, hey, we can fix this massive global epidemic. And I know you're talking about global, we're talking about US, fine, US epidemic, that like we just can't even get our heads around how big this problem of chronic disease actually is. I mean, and you could put it in financial terms. We've got enough, the cost of all of this, like diabetes, obesity, et cetera, has enough zeros on it that I just cannot get my mind around that amount of money. Maybe you can, but I can't.
Come on, you gotta talk to University of Georgia. They gotta give you a raise.
Oh man. Yeah, so like it's just a tremendous problem, and I'm not terribly optimistic that we can solve it. But what we can do is, I can tell you my personal approach, man, is to just look at what influence do I have in the circles that I run in, right? Like they call it spheres of influence or whatever. I've got a team of 3 doctoral students, and we're doing CrossFit-oriented research, and we're going to publish that research, and we're going to get it out there. These are small studies that we're just getting started. It's very humble beginnings. Who knows where it's going to go? It's the same thing as like the local affiliate opening up, and they're going to have, first it's 10 members, and then it's 30 members, then it's 50, and then it's 100, 200. And then that impacts the community, right? And then it's just, I don't think that we should set out to be with these like super grandiose, astronomical, unachievable goals. It's more like, what can you do with what you have right now? And then see what happens, right? So I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but that's my take on that, because it is overwhelming. It's like, why bother? Like, as if you think of it that okay, let's solve it, the whole thing, then it's like, it's too big. Why bother? I'm just going to stop. I'm not even going to try. But no, I think there's like things we can do here and then with the here and now. And that is what I'm doing with my research, is to focus it on, well, there's just a lot of opportunity with the exercise science research that has been done. A lot of it falls short of actually addressing things with questions of like work capacity. And if you do an exercise bout in just an acute setting and look at some health marker that where that exercise stimulus is challenging your work capacity, for example, then what happens to your health? Well, there's just a lot that's not known about that in the scientific space. So that's the kind of things that we're trying to do right now.
Yeah, and I don't take it as a cop-out. It was kind of a question I threw at you, and
yeah,
it's a hard answer, but I think everybody that's listening to this, like you just said, needs to figure out what is their, sphere of influence. Who can they, impact? And one thing Coach Glassman brought up at the summit is they do a free class twice a week, and I forget the exact term he used it, but it was basically, overweight and out of shape people get to come in for free, whatever criteria you might want to set.
The underserved. He calls it the underserved.
Underserved. And whatever criteria that means for your box, every box, I've owned 3 affiliates. I know from 2 to 4 p.m., nothing's happening at your box. So like you said, open it up for free. It's hard. I want to go up to those people and tell them I have the magic pill that they want. It's going to save them money. It's going to, it's going to give them more time. It's going to make them healthier, but you have to get them into the box and get them around that community.
Yeah. Hey, on your trip out to Colorado down I-70, did you stop in Columbia, Missouri at all? Do you remember that?
Well, we didn't stop there, and honestly, I don't remember the time. We drove through Missouri.
I did. I worked for 2 years at the University of Missouri. That's a great town.
Well, we did stop at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and so. And I think it's kind of what makes me sad is I see these people eating, and I'm like, hey, it's not as even as if you can't eat here ever, but let's just be a little smarter. Yeah. Let's put away that soda. You want some fried chicken once in a while? I had some fried chicken. I had a biscuit.
You had some. Yeah. You crushed some fried chicken.
Yeah, it gave me diarrhea, but it was worth it. So speaking of that, the other thing that you and I kind of talked about is, the big buzz going around the CrossFit community and the fitness world is this documentary called Gamechangers. And I'm anxious to hear your opinion on it. I know your degree, exercise physiology includes metabolism and it includes all that. So I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Everyone's trying to go plant-based. Truth be told, I gave up meat for a short period of time just to test it out.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion on that? Did you watch the documentary?
I did. Yeah. After shout out to Katie, who on seminar staff, who messaged me.
She's also a best hour coach, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So she messaged me asking me my opinion on it, and I had not watched it yet at that time, but she was maybe the second or third person to ask me. And I was like, okay, enough people are asking me about this thing. I need to sit down and watch this. So over the following weekend, I sat down and watched it, and now it's been a couple of weeks, so I can't remember a lot of the specifics, but my take was that, man, it's just a really interesting time where people, I think about things on like a kind of a meta level, like a high, like 40,000 foot level. It's like, I'm always interested in where do people get their information. And right now, the current thing is for people to get their information from, of course, the internet, like social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. But when it comes to nutrition, I think the average, somewhat intelligent, otherwise educated person is mostly getting their nutrition information from Netflix, like documentary, because this is just the latest one, and it's sort of a series of these high profiles, somewhat to extremely controversial nutrition oriented documentaries that's come out in the last few years. Like the one a couple of years ago that I also got a lot of questions about from friends, colleagues, students, and so forth was called What the Health. And it was just this, it was like same shit, different day, to be honest. And the bottom line for me is that, you know what, the Netflix producers do not make their money based on the accuracy of the information that's presented. They make their money based on the number of clicks on and how many views they get. So that right there for me, like regardless of the content of the message, it's going to be hard for me to get past. That's my filter, right? It's like, that's going to be hard for me to get past that and take it. So, so there's that from the beginning. To get into a little bit of the specifics of it, I had a hard time with the way they quantified the effectiveness of the vegan diet in that documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, but their test of like the I can't remember the guy's name, but the narrator, the host of the documentary, went on his vegan diet, and the part for me that I almost turned the thing off was his test of how effective it was for his fitness was a battle rope challenge. So like, how long could he last on swing battle ropes? And before,
right, well, there's no way to measure.
Right, there's no. Yeah, so like we can just ask the CrossFit community who's listening to this: is how long you can last on a friggin' battle rope? Is that a good measure of your fitness, right? And so I think he went from doing it for like 2 minutes to an hour or something like that, because his vegan diet was magical. There may be immense benefits to the vegan diet, but that would not be the way that I would measure it. How about that?
I like that. So if a box owner is listening and they have their members coming up to them, hey, I saw Gamechangers, I'm thinking about doing that, how would you recommend that they respond?
Yeah, I would say I would, as a box owner to a client, to a member, I would say, hey, look, that's cool. That's one source of information, but just you need to understand there's a lot of different opinions and perspectives out there, and it's your duty, it's my duty, it's our collective duty to educate ourselves on a variety of perspectives on this. And as a box owner, if I don't own a box, maybe one day in retirement or something I will. It's kind of like a bucket list thing for me. So at some point I want to own a box. And if I were a box owner, I would say, hey, look, let's figure this out together, right? Like, tell me what you'll watch it, I'll watch it, we'll take notes, compare notes. And then always have like the scientific skepticism. That's one thing we do well at the university is, never just take anything at face value. You need to investigate this thoroughly. Let's dig in and kind of figure this out. Like, there's probably, and there were some elements of veracity of truth to take from that documentary. And there's a lot of elements that were just not as good. And so the whole process is to come up with something that's a set of ideas and theories, whatever, that points us to a best practice. One source of information is never going to comprise all of the things that we would say is best practice, especially when it comes to nutrition, because it's just a complicated topic.
Well, I think a lot of that documentary was, a little bit biased based on who was involved and what their financial implications are for them. So I think, like anything,
look into that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, look into that. Don't get all of your, but isn't that the whole problem with nutrition? I mean, when I grew up, I think we're about the same age. It was a fat-free craze.
Yep.
You know, and where was that coming from? It was coming from the television, from magazines, to the extent that I've educated myself, but my parents still believe in all of that.
Yep. 100%. The food industry, and this is one of the things that Coach Glassman is educating the entire community on, and doing a great job with it. The corrupt influence of the food industry in the nutrition sciences and health sciences in general, but in particular in nutrition. That's something that I think box owners should, and you guys have talked about this on this podcast before, is, man, the CrossFit.com these days is an amazing resource to become educated and conversant on that. And yeah, we saw it like in my childhood. I think I'm a little younger than you, but in my childhood, definitely remember like the fat-free craze. And we had like fat-free snacks in the house and stuff. And it's, you know, we're a product of our environment, that's just the times that it was. And hopefully, you know, we've learned from that and kind of we're starting to move on.
How long do you anticipate it taking before the country recognizes meats, vegetables, nuts, and seeds is the way to go?
Oh man, that's kind of like the last question is like.
But do you think it will ever get there then? Or is there too much?
I'm kind of a pessimist, man. I don't think so.
Well, is it because the health industry won't allow it?
Yeah, it's such a big machine. The food industry and the government, and I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but
no, I mean, I've heard, you know, hearing you talk about it, hearing Coach Glassman talk about it, hearing Dr. Zoe talk about it.
Sure. You
realize, no, this is real.
No, so like as far as like the mainstream thinking on, I'm speaking in really broad brushstrokes here about exercise and nutrition. Mainstream thinking, I'm not terribly optimistic that it's going to change to what has been born out of industry as a different and arguably more effective model, which is CrossFit. You know, when you, again, for me, it's like I think of it as two laboratories. One is the contrived, controlled, experimental space that we have at the university, and the real world, which is where industry tests ideas, and they either fail or they don't, or if they semi-fail but semi-succeed, you take that feedback and it's an iterative process whereby you improve it as you go and you develop best practices based on like market feedback, right? Well, it's just a different model, and you end up at a different conclusion, a different set of best practices than you do if you do it the other way, which is the academic way. And this is what Coach Glassman talks about, is like consensus science and postmodern science, where it's like, let's just come up with stuff that we can all agree on as the best way to do stuff. And there's no like test market. It doesn't necessarily, we don't know if it works or it doesn't work. It just, the people who think they know stuff about it, they agree on it, right? So that is, I'm describing it in broad terms, but that is how we came up with the set of ideas that we have about, again, best practices for nutrition and exercise from the academic space. And oh, by the way, that happens to be influenced a lot by commercial interests and industry. And that's a big problem. I mean, I personally, I mean, I'm kind of removed from a lot of that. Like, I don't have industry funding. I have one NIH grant, but it's kind of a totally different topic. Try to keep myself in my again, the small sphere of influence removed from that stuff, but just as an observer, as a participant and an observer of like that big machine that is academia and the mainstream public health messages about exercise and nutrition. Oh man, coming back to your question, is it going to change? Mainstream, I don't know. Like it's a lifelong. It's going to be within our lifetime. It'll be really interesting to see how things go. Like we're talking not 1 year, not even 5 years, a decade. I might check in and see how things are going. Compare and then look back like over every 10 years or so, like how much progress has been made, because it's just such a big problem. It just takes a long time to make incremental progress on this stuff. So,
well, like you said, to kick this off, here's what we can do. Box owners need to control their sphere, and we need to get out there. We may never make that change for the entire country, but we can make it for our box. We can make it for our community, and slowly.
Grassroots, man.
That's it. It might not happen. I mean, this is the same way Coach Glassman started it way back when in Santa Cruz. You know, I don't think his goal was to be a disruptor in the health industry, which he is now, but he just started with the intention of helping people, and that's what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, for me, I never, I would say now, I actually, with my lab meetings with my students, I use that term disruption quite a lot. It's like when we publish our results on some of our studies that we're doing, I really do hope it disrupts our field. And, you know, it's going to take a while for us to get some of that stuff published because it's going to be so different from what my peers are used to thinking about and how they're used to thinking about exercise. Like, you know, I presented at the summit on quantifying the exercise stimulus in terms of power output and work accomplished, you know, physics-based characterization. That's going to blow. That's good. It's so simple, right? It's so fundamental. But that's just not how the mainstream exercise science community looks at exercise. It's like percent of VO2 max, heart rate, your heart rate reserve, you know, percent of your heart rate max. It's just, anyway, so yeah, I think I'm just really excited about some of the stuff that we're having the opportunity to do right now, and the chance to talk about it with people like yourself and your colleagues and your peers in the CrossFit training group.
Yeah, and you know, I can see it happening because since moving here, I was dropping in at a Globo gym it was right down the road, and I want to get my workouts in. And you see it. There's squat racks. There's functional fitness areas. I mean, none of that was around before CrossFit. I worked at gyms long before. There weren't kettlebells, wall balls, pull-up bars. So it's cool. And I think that's really the beginning of it. It's going to happen. It might not be in our lifetimes, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Last question to you. It's Thursday night as we're recording this. It's going to go up Monday.
Okay.
What's the last workout of the 2020 Open going to be?
Oh shoot, man. Well, I think.
And don't look at your phone because I don't know if it's out yet. We're recording right around 8 o'clock.
By my watch, I've got 8:06 on Thursday night, and I'm not going to pull up the phone, but I've got a push notification from my CrossFit Games app that's probably telling me what the workout is.
Okay, well, let's see. I'll do this. Let's do it live. I'm going to look up what it is.
Okay.
You give me your best guess.
Oh,
you're a doctor. You're a doctor.
Yeah,
you should be good at this.
Right.
You should be able to do this.
I think. All right, I can tell you the movements. I think they're going to be in it first. I think we've got to see rowing and wall balls, and I also think we're going to see some variation of muscle ups. And my hunch is that it'll be ring muscle ups only because we had bar muscle ups in the 2019 Open earlier in 2019. So,
all right, rowing, wall ball, and ring muscle ups.
Yes, and I think a relatively shorter time domain because we've had several like 20-minute type deals. So I'm going to say, well, I'll just tell you what I've been thinking it's going to be all week. I think it's a 10-minute AMRAP of 1 ring muscle up, 10 wall balls, and 10 calories on the rower, and then every round you increase the number of ring muscle ups. So like within 1 and then 2 and then 3 and so forth. Something along those lines is what I've been thinking of.
Well, Doc.
Am I close at all?
You are. I just pulled it up. It came up. What a guess. You are extremely close. Yeah, let me tell you what it is.
Okay.
And the listeners, you've probably done it at this point because it's
just earned so much credibility with CrossFit.
You did. You did. And now.
Okay.
So the workout 20.5 for time partitioned anyway.
Oh shit.
40 muscle ups, 80 calorie row, 120 wall ball shots.
But you can partition it any way you want.
Yeah, so that is very similar actually.
All right, I
to
got
what you were saying.
Man, everyone needs to not be heroes and do short, small, quick sets.
Okay, so let's while I've got you on the phone, you know, and I do want to go see it because I believe the announcement was at Reebok CrossFit 1, so I'm sure Austin's there.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that.
Denise is there. So earn some street cred right here, Doc.
Hit me. Yeah.
How would you recommend people break this up?
All right, I need to.
And then I will poke holes in your theory. This would be like
you're the man, dude. Like I'm
defending your dissertation right now.
I have my L1, but I'm not a master trainer or coach. I've coached.
Yeah, that's basically like you saying to me you have your level 1 is like basically a kindergartner coming up to you 100%. And saying I'm in kindergarten, and you're like I'm a fucking doctor. Like that's where we're at right now.
100%. So, all right.
All right. So what's your strategy here, Doc? And I'll make you defend it.
Well, my app isn't loading because I can't see it. So tell me again, it's 40 muscle ups, 80 wall balls?
80 calories and 120 wall ball.
40, 80, 120. Gosh. I don't see I'm just thinking of myself, and I'm a fairly average athlete. I can do, is it ring muscle ups?
It only says muscle ups for the record, so I don't know just yet. Actually, there's a picture over here, and it looks like China Cho is on rings, so I assume they're rings.
And based on my knowledge of CrossFit is that unless specified, muscle up means ring muscle up.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I'd say it's a good assumption. We're going with rings.
Okay, so that was me trying to earn more street cred.
Yeah. Nice job.
I'm not doing any more than a set of 4 muscle ups at one time. And I'm not necessarily even stringing those together. That's a lot of. And what's our time cap? Do we have time cap?
No, it doesn't. There's no time cap.
Oh Jesus!
I think. Let me double check that.
We're like super raw right now.
Okay, well, let's just say if your goal was to finish this as fast as you can.
And then I'm not doing any more than 10. I'm doing 10 wall balls.
There is
once.
There is a 20-minute time cap.
20-minute time cap. Well, man, I'm a sit down and ponder things and think about it right on the whiteboard a million times. But off the cuff, no more than 4 muscle ups at one time. Once you've accumulated 4 muscle ups, then move to the wall balls, I guess. No. Move to the rower so that the pulling has a chance to recover a little bit before you could get back on the ring.
All right, now you're thinking.
And then to the wall balls. I'm not doing any more than a set of 10 wall balls at once with that many.
Well, based on what you're saying, I think you would basically break this up into 10 sets, 4, 8, 12.
Exactly. 100%.
And I think that's what most people will wind up doing.
Yes.
The challenge, okay, I'm going to ask you.
I don't know if that, I think about it more, but that off the, like raw, not having thought about it at all, 4, 8, 12, 10 rounds, and don't be a hero. Don't go out too hot. For me, it's difficult. Like when I'm fresh, I can string together 4 ring muscle ups, but can I do 10 rounds of that? No. So I don't even know this is going to get ugly, man.
I think where people will get lost is the 80 calories and the 120 wall ball shots relative to the muscle ups is very low.
Right.
So like you're saying, it's going to be easy to chip away at the 80 and the 120 and just leave yourself staring at rings.
Exactly. And that for me, I know that's going to be the sticking point, as Coach Insar talked about. Like there's a sticking point in every workout for the vast majority of us average people. It's going to be those ring muscle ups. I mean,
yes.
I don't think I can think of a workout where I've done 40 at one time, like in one workout.
And I don't want you to think that comment was lost on me. in that you've listened to the episode with Hinshaw, by the way.
I've listened to every episode.
Well, thank you. You are.
It's my favorite. It's sincerely my favorite CrossFit themed podcast. Which is why it's my highest credential to be on it twice.
Yes. Well, and I'd like to say, I believe you're the street cred Dr. Nathan Jenkins without really seeing it. Really, I think you did a good job kind of coming up with the game plan, understanding the workout. So he's not just a brain. He's got the muscle ups to back it up. And I think you're going to do great on this workout.
Man, maybe is it 2, 8, 12, and 2 or something like that. That comes out to be.
Or 2, 8, 2, 12 or something
2, 8,
along
2,
that.
Exactly. 2, 8, 2, 12.
Now you're thinking. That's it. You just earned your stripes.
That way it's going to be constant movement. Yeah. Okay.
I like that.
That's actually all right. That's what I'm going to go to bed thinking of, but then I might change my mind by the time I do it tomorrow night.
All right. Well, we'll be excited to see how you do. It's been a pleasure having you back on for a second time, and I'm sure we'll have you on multiple times. Fern and I plan on having all of the CrossFit Health people on and having a regular schedule with you guys. So we're looking forward to that because you guys are doing some great things in the world, and we are appreciative of that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Jason. This has been a lot of fun.
All right, Doc. Get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. All right.
Dream of your strategy and let us know how it goes.
Dream about muscle ups, man. All right. Take care, man.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day.
Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, one more time, please leave us a review on Apple Podcast and send us any feedback you have to @besthouroftheirday on Instagram and besthouroftheirday@gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email. We appreciate you. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.